Hey everybody, Drone here with another Star Trek First Edition video, back after a long hiatus. Just want to maybe apologize first a little bit for being gone so long here, not really making any content for a while. Um, just kind of life happened this year, been dealing with health issues and so forth, just kind of prioritize that. And that was kind of in the spring, like when winter was kind of ending. Dealt with some significant health injuries, and then was barely able to find the time just to build decks for actual regionals and stuff like that. So making videos and stuff like that didn't really seem like a high priority. And then of course, as I got into summer and the health stuff got worse, then started getting better. And then I kind of focused on the recovery aspect of it for the most part. And of course, in the summertime, there's lots of things to do. You want to go places. I want to do a lot of golfing and traveling in the summertime or whatever, as is typical. But now, summer's kind of ended. We're getting into late fall. The weather's changing. I put the golf clubs away for the year because now it's in the 40s, which is about 5 degrees Celsius here now, and it's windy, so it's cold. And then this is the time of year where, kind of here in the upper Midwest of the United States, we deal with just this wind that, even though it's like 45 degrees, it's really cold out. And then, there's the occasional, like, very, very cold rain. So golf season's kind of done, put the clubs away, and so now I'm kind of refocusing on bowling season, and then have also decided that I would like to kind of refocus on doing some more videos, Trek videos again here for all of you at home to watch. I'm going to try to do these on Friday. My work schedule allow, I have Friday afternoons off every week for now, while I have this current job. The job I've had for 7 years. I will continue to have Friday afternoons off, and instead of golfing, I'm gonna try to use this time to maybe put some more Trek videos out for everyone at home. The idea or the plan is that I'm going to kind of do a little bit of what like the Kaiser does, and just kind of showcase some combos, some strategies, or whatever. But I also want to expand that out and kind of showcase like an entire deck, but also show everyone at home that a little bit of my process, that when I build a deck and I start putting it through its paces, like what I do. And so that's what today's video is going to be. What I have here is a deck that I've been working on for the last several weeks. I started on it probably 3-4 weeks ago, and it just took me forever to figure out like the right shell for what I wanted to do, because there was a couple of cards that I wanted to focus on, and mishmashing them together proved a lot more problematic. I actually ended up having to abandon a couple of these sort of ancillary things that would have, I felt, actually made the deck even cooler. Because I'm just going to say this right now, I don't know that this is like a highly competitive deck. I think that it's got some things about it which I think will be, it'll make it so that you're not going to just like get blown out, and you're certainly going to have a few things. They're going to make the deck competitive for like local tournaments or an online tournament, release events type thing. I think that there's the possibility that people could easily find a different shell, a different way of doing this that might actually make it more competitive, so that by the time winter is done and we get back into spring regional season, there might be some new variations. I may have a new variation of what I'm trying to do here by the time that rolls around. But and then what I'm also going to do with this video is we're going to also show a bit of a fishbowl, because this is what I like to do. I like to create scenarios. I'll take a deck, I'll build it, I'll flesh it out to a version 1, and then I will kind of put it through its paces. I've already done what I call the session 0, which is I basically just do a straight fishbowl to make sure that the right cards are in the deck, meaning that like a card plays, and if I want to have its download in the deck, the download's in the deck, etc., so I'm not missing cards. And that there's a basic like, okay, this does work as far as how the deck draws, and it puts people into play, and can they report to where they need to report to, and things like that. Then I kind of get to a session 1 where I will start creating scenarios. I'll, and I don't always do it like fully like this. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just kind of imagine it. So if I'm just sitting at my kitchen table, I'll just sit there and I'll have the deck play out, and then I'll imagine that like on turn 3, turn 4, this is what my opponent's doing. How would I respond to that? Or I saw this coming from an opponent at the beginning during the seed phase, and like, am I able to work towards defeating what the opponent's doing or bypassing it or what have you? So for today's kind of scenario, what I've done is I've taken this deck that I've built, and we're putting it up against a kind of hodgepodge version of the different TNG board decks from Worlds. So I took, Chris's draw deck, and I did what I sometimes do, and I like shuffled up the draw deck and drew it out and played like the first like 3 turns of playing people just to see where is it the deck appear that it's going to end up after about 3 turns. Now I've seen Chris play the deck enough, I've seen Joe play his version, etc., etc. So I already have kind of an idea of where those decks end up by the 3rd turn and when they get going. And then the other thing I did was that I took of the TNG board decks at Worlds, I kind of took like nearly all their dilemmas, and I then kind of like created these combos, and then I kind of randomly put them in places. With a little bit of like intentional, like if I was the TNG board player, this is what I would do. Doesn't really affect our fishbowl because, we're just trying to see how the deck will do against certain quote unquote obvious situations. So, and then on the flip side of that, I did create a dilemma, a full dilemma strategy for the deck. It has 16 dilemmas that it's seeding, and it basically has 2 different versions of seeding it out. It kind of has a non-Borg opponent, where if I'm looking at the missions, I don't see a Borg deck there. I'll seed it out one way. And then if I do see a Borg deck, if I really think there's a really strong chance that there's a Borg deck that my opponent is playing for, obviously, where if my opponent is playing with 6 PNZ missions, well, then I'm going to change the combos up for the Borg matchup so that I put the right dilemmas in the right place to maximize their effect against Borg, because certain dilemma combos just don't always work the best when you're playing against an affiliation that ignores them, or it's attempting missions, like scouting missions differently than what your typical deck does. So you kind of have to make adjustments as you go. And it's important, I would say, to everyone watching, that when you do like build a deck, you basically in the modern first edition game, you need to basically have your strategy versus non-Borg and your strategy versus Borg when it comes to your dilemmas in particular. So to help maximize your percentage of winning. I mean, TNG Borg and First Contact Borg, absolutely, they capitalize on combos not really being good against them, popular combos. And so you kind of have to make adjustments, be a little unpredictable, as I am famous for saying. Unpredictability and surprise are 2 of your best weapons in a game of first edition. So, so I've taken that, I put them out, and then when we get to like the 3rd turn, then we'll create the scenario of these are the people that the TNG Borg deck was able to get out, and then what would it probably do in that scenario. I actually did do an honest like shuffle and play out 3 turns of drawing and playing for the deck in order to get these people into play. So this is essentially a fair or typical like draw and play for the deck. But then on our side of the deck here, because TNG Borg tends to play in its own sandbox, and with this deck, it wants to kind of play in its own sandbox. We actually kind of have this really interesting setup here where I did, like I said, I shuffled up missions and did the same thing. I tried to create an honest situation like what you would see. So this is kind of how it came out. So we are playing with Earth. We're playing the Alpha Quadrant, Sector 001 region here. And then we have and then we have tactical observation to see the Valiant, and then we have Save Stranded Crew as a meta mission that is also readily solvable by this deck for 30 points, but it will get us the copy of All-Consuming Evil. So we are going to telegraph to any opponent that, okay, well, All-Consuming Evil might be a thing. So, but let's just go ahead and get started here. So the card that I wanted to build around is I wanted to build around Double Dumbass on You. And I know that Kaiser did a video on it recently. You know, it seems that both I and a bunch of other people were all identified this card as maybe one of the best cards to come out of the most recent set. That it's not usually the most obvious card that ends up being like the powerhouse card or the sneakily good card of a new set. But when I was looking over the set, this is the card that caught my eye because of its ability to make some weaker dilemmas actually like quite potent. But then my idea was to try to also pair it with Smoke Bomb. And so the idea here being that the opponent's not going to know it, that this is what's coming, but we're going to probably download some people onto their mission, and then we're going to use Smoke Bomb offensively so that we can stop them hard with a Double Dumbass on You. And then when we get people at their mission, then we can use Smoke Bomb to keep them from attempting. So the opponent, if they don't know that the Smoke Bomb's coming, so we probably get the first one free where they do some card plays, and then we Smoke Bomb their people. So those people are locked out from attempting that mission. Perfect scenario is the opponent just flies over to like a planet with like 8 people, beams them all down, makes an attempt, you know, and then we stop them with dilemmas, and then we're going to basically go bonus turn on them. You know, we're going to time walk them with a Smoke Bomb. So this is not a new strategy. It's kind of been out there. But one of the other reasons why I feel like this combo, like these cards are pretty good together, is because this can stall the opponent on its own. It's a strong enough card to do that, I think. And then Smoke Bomb is icing on the cake. It's gravy on top. But Smoke Bomb can also act defensively. And this is where my comment earlier about, well, maybe this deck has potential to actually be a competitive deck. And it would be because of adding Smoke Bombs to the deck as well, that you can use the Smoke Bombs to protect you from an opponent who wants to try to battle you. So like Borg Assimilation is a very popular strategy right now and so forth. And so Smoke Bomb kind of protects you from that sort of thing. We're playing with a home world, so we will have access to Stratagema to protect ourselves. We create a buffer by having a mission region here, so the opponent isn't able to just necessarily seed next to us and get the drop on us. And then we actually are going to start the game with like 2 different ships, and so we have plenty of ways to kind of protect ourselves with this deck. So, you know, that's the sort of consideration that a person needs to have when they're building a deck in first edition is it's just another one of those, like, am I prepared for both sides of the coin dynamic? Are my dilemmas able to handle both Borg and non-Borg? But then as far as the deck is concerned, am I able to play fast enough to be competitive in a solver versus solver matchup? But then do I have enough protection to be able to deal with an aggressive deck that's trying to screw with me? So, so we've kind of built around these 2 cards. And so lots of card draws are going to be important in order to try to find our copies of these in the deck. So throw those back in and shuffle. And then, you know, we kind of, you know, go through the seed phase. We have, for doorways, we've got the Q's Tent, the Temporal Conduit. Temporal Conduit's going to allow us to play AU cards once per turn, but also seed AU dilemmas, which is important for what we're trying to do. We do not have any of the 3 card downloads in the deck. That's something that maybe a version 2.0 is going to have. Like, having Stone Knives and Bearskins might be important. in that respect. But this deck's strategy, we don't really need to worry about a umbrella lockout because we'll have our headquarters on Earth, and then we're not really planning on doing any of the other either of the other planets if we can help it. So that's not really as much of a concern. So we're seeding, taking charge as a hidden agenda, which is important. It's extremely important to the strategy of the deck, which you'll see later. We are seeding the office of the president. We are seeding the Starbase 247. The fact that we're in the 001 region allows us to have these two next to each other guaranteed, which is quite important. The Starbase downloads the space dock onto it, so we'll have the easy ability to repair our ships very quickly, which is important for some dilemmas that that damage you and so forth. And then of course the mission downloaded the all-consuming evil onto it as well in order to boost any Armus dilemmas that we might be playing with. We don't actually have an Armus dilemma anywhere in the deck or in the Q center or anything. That's another kind of version 2.0. Once we get through enough like test bowl games, do we feel like it's an important thing to add. Continuing on, we're going to play with Federation Flagship relaunched, so that gets us the Enterprise E. We're going to seed Cafe onto the Enterprise E, since it has a holodeck, and this requires a ship or facility with a holodeck to seed, so we are seeding that. This is one of our important draw engines for the deck. And, of course, the second function is not to be ignored. The ability to get a romantic partner of a personnel present might be able to, in a pinch, late game, mid to late game, get us exactly who we need to really move forward when the card draws are maybe less important and we need to be busting dilemmas. We're going to seed the Valiant here. As I mentioned, we are able to get it within range, so just one movement to get to Earth. And of course, it's going to special download the training cruise. That allows us to report our compatible cadets aboard, and one such may report for free each turn. Ship's attributes +1 for each cadet aboard. So really, in order to even staff the ship, it's a 10, 12, 11. And then this card also acts as a sort of enforcer for the deck. So if we can get 2 cadets on it early, fly to Earth, and then after we fly to Earth, we can maybe think about patrolling a space line, maybe against a different opponent. We would then have the ability to have tactical observation be a thing where it's like, okay, we're going to have it just kind of patrolling the space line because of the last line in training crews. If the crew has no more than 1 non-cadet, ship and crew may ignore affiliation attack restrictions. So if we get a cadet with officer leadership and a second cadet to staff it, a 10, 12, 11, USS Valiant is definitely potent enough to kind of keep an opponent in check. So, all right, moving on. We're seeding Defend Homeworld as a hidden agenda. I'm just going to keep these face up for purposes of this video. We're also seeding a Quark's Isolinear Odds, and we are seeding a Science Support Personnel. Now, again, though, these cards would be face down until used per the rules. But for the purposes of making this video easier to understand, we're just going to leave them face up. So. We're going to seed Study Divergent History on Earth's Office of the Outpost, or Office of the President. This is kind of our other main card draw engine. The 2 of these together are really all the card draw we will ever need. The other card that I kind of wanted to build around, because I'm coming around to just how strong I think this card is Group Therapy. Another Minnesota player and I, we kind of messed around with his deck having Group Therapy in it. And then once, we kind of realized that, if you can there's a lot of really good Fed civilians in a deck that can have Fed civilians in it. And then, of course, the ability to download a Federation genetically enhanced personnel to Karen Lowe's means you also have access to, directly getting Julian Bashir for, 3 medical if you need it. Or if you're playing one of the different versions, one's got bio and geo, and so forth. So, this I think is a really good card. The last line is also what I think is probably, again, it's like you get to the last line of a card, and it's actually, I think, maybe the most important line, and that is that if they're with Julian Bashir, if any of the Jack Pack are with Julian Bashir, they can use their classification if it was engineer, medical science, or VIP, which is very important because a lot of dilemmas they try to like kill your engineers or your medical or your science or whatever. Like immediate disintegration protocol is a very popular dilemma right now, and if it's in space and they're trying to kill engineers, well, none of the Jack Pack and Julian Bashir, none of them are engineers, so they wouldn't be targetable. But then you can turn around and just say, okay, well, Julian Bashir's here, Serena and Patrick are here, so cool. I have 2 engineers, so you would just get past it, and the death that you would take would be inconsequential. It's also important for like garbage scow that the Jack Pack with Julian Bashir can move garbage scows, stuff like that. So there's just a lot about this card that I actually think is really strong, and it might be underplayed. But again, there's so many affiliations in the deck, and this is kind of a Fed-only card. So, but for Fed decks, I really like it. I think that it's quite strong. So we're going to try this out too. And then lastly, we have assigned mission specialists, and that will get us McKay and Ensign Davis from the Mirror Quadrant. Once they're seated, we immediately lose our Federation flagship relaunched. This is not a problem. This deck is not playing Enterprise E people for free. The opponent could damage the Enterprise E, but then again, we literally just immediately repair a space dock. But basically, the point was just to basically be able to seed an Enterprise E so that we have another ship in play right off the seed phase, so that we're not using card plays for ships later in the game. So, yeah, and just put something in the discard pile as well. So, so we're gonna go ahead and that's kind of everything as far as the seed goes. We're kind of in our sandbox. We assume that TNG board opponents in their sandbox. So we'll go ahead and draw 7, and we'll just kind of see how the deck goes. All right, not the greatest draw in the world. We actually drew 2 members of our Jack Pack, and neither one of them played for free in any way. We also drew Julian Bashir, so this is a little rough. We also did not draw a cadet. But it's not the end of the world. It really isn't. Because we're probably just going to go ahead and hard play Julian Bashir. Because even though it's kind of the mirror version of him, he's still Alpha Quadrant. And so what we could then potentially do is get like Serena into play early to be a romantic partner of his or what have you. The download for Lauren, or Life's Simple Pleasures, is a kind of an important aspect of this deck. But we are going to get some we do have an ambassador to play for free to the Office of the President. She's going to be able to get us an Odo on the opponent's turn. So we essentially get 2 free plays here. So this isn't terrible, but it's not great. We are set up with our double dumbasses already. So if, say, an opponent got a little overly aggressive with their mission attempts early, we already have these in hand in order to help us. But we assume that we're going first. I like to just assume that we're going to go first because it's a way to kind of, you stress test a deck, and going first, not knowing what your opponent's going to do can affect your first turn. So we'll just go ahead and go first. So we would free play Loaxana Troy as an ambassador to Office of the President. And then, yes, I believe that we will just go ahead and play Julian Bashir as a card play. We're going to go ahead, move to orders phase. We're going to defend Homeworld, and we're going to Quark's Rods. So we go into the deck. The other thing that we're trying to do with this deck is we're trying to do the Dixon Hill trick with this deck. So we're going to get Carlos into hand, and he's going to get played, and then eventually we're going to grab Dixon Hill out of the Q's tent. We have Q's tents in the deck. We can grab Dixon Hill, later, in order to like be able to just go ahead and once we play these double dumbasses on an opponent's turn, we get to our turn and we can just draw them right back up with Carlos and Dixon Hill being together. So that gives us basically like unlimited double dumbasses. If we get like 3 or 4 of them in our hand, then we will always have 3 or 4 of them if we want them. So we grabbed Carlos, and then our Defend a Homeworld is preset. It looks like it was going to be the next card. Don't you just love it when that happens? The card you wanted to download was the next card. So we're getting Mr. and Mrs. Troy. The 2 of them together provide the 2 staffing required for the Enterprise E, since they each have the Enterprise E icon. And then our staff star will come from Ensign Davis, so that's how we're able to staff the Enterprise E on the first turn. We would flip Taking Charge at this point, and then we will move the Enterprise to Earth. That will allow us then to beam down our mirror dudes, along with Julian Bashir, Waxana Troy. And so on the first turn, what we're able to do is we're able to use Taking Charge. We'll go back into the deck, and we'll get... we're going to choose to get... We have the options of doing Visit Cochrane Memorial, which is what we would do if we would have had a better draw. If we would have had like a human engineer or something like that, we could do it that way. We may still do that because we have these cards that don't really play for free. And so if we reveal one of our mini interrupts in the deck, we might be able to actually get one of them and play it for free. So I think, because it's either that or we get Secure Homeworld. Secure Homeworld would play for free if we were to happen to randomly draw it. So we will just stick with getting Visit Cochrane Memorial. We're going to set that over here just so that we're not cluttering up the board. So I think what we're going to do is that this is our opportunity to have McKay as a human engineer go, and we're just going to have Ensign Davis and Julian Bashir stop and draw a card. And then what we're going to do is we're going to push that through group therapy to download a Federation civilian. This is another fun little thing that, again, where group therapy I think is pretty strong. It allows us to pull Sergei and Helena as another romantic couple for later. They also are a human engineer as well. So that's what we'll do with that. And then we can stop Mr. and Mrs. Troy as romantic partners, just to straight up draw a card. Ooh, look at that. I have both versions of Janeway. They are both playable because this is Catherine Janeway. This is Admiral Janeway, who is not a Persona version. We're probably going to play this version. We have not played an alternate universe card this turn. So if we are to randomly hit an interrupt, we may actually just play her for free. Kind of sucks, but, it is what it is. So those are 2 draws. We were choosing to have McKay go to Visit Cochrane Memorial because he's either going to draw us a card the way he normally would anyway, but he also gives us the possibility of hitting interrupt for a free play. So we'll just go to the end of turn, and we'll just probe. We probe. Oh, worst possible probe. That is unfortunate. So I think that we're going to go ahead and just get rid of... I think we'll get rid of Catherine Janeway, because she'll be our free play next turn. We can have Sergei and Helena be a card play next turn, and so forth. And then, yeah, I think that's how it's going to be. So that's really unfortunate. I mean, just sucks. So what do? This is a way to stress test a deck when you have and the deck only has 5 or 6 bad probes in it. Everything else is either a Fed personnel, an equipment, or an interrupt. And so it's like, wow, that's just a 1 1 in 10 chance, and we hit it. So, oh well. It's a good way to stress test a deck is to have things go wrong, because things will go wrong in a tournament. Things will go wrong when you're playing a live fire game against somebody. So it's good to know what to do when these things happen. So, okay, so we discarded for that, and then we just simply draw her for the end of turn probe. Or she's a probe, we don't draw it, goes back on top, and we draw it for the end of turn. So then we move to turn 2. We assume our TNG opponents, played a couple of dudes, drew. We get to our turn 2, and we are going to go. Opponent's turn, we're also going to special download Odo. Odo will come out of the deck because he's an ambassador as well, so he's also a free play. So even if we don't get Loxana Troy, we get him by himself. So he comes into play on the opponent's turn. And then on our turn, we are going to, we're going to free play Catherine Janeway. We're going to card play Sergei and Helena. We still don't have a cadet, but that's okay. This deck doesn't really revolve around the cadets. It's more revolving around admirals and people here at Earth. Then we're going to go ahead, use our download for the turn of assigned support personnel. We're going to go get Karen Lowe's. Where are you at, Karen? She's such a Karen. Such a Karen. There we go. We'll just stay inside the deck here. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead then and do the taking charge download. And we will get secure homeworld onto Earth. Actually, let's just think about that for a moment. We have Julie and Bashir providing geology. We've got McKay providing geology if we need to. What we could possibly do instead is we can get process ore mining and slap that onto Earth, or slap that onto Save Stranded Crew. I mean, you probably just go to Save Stranded Crew because it's closer. And that would allow us to get additional card draws and so forth. Thing is, there's not really a card in hand that I feel like I want to discard. So yeah, I think we'll stick with Secure Homeworld for now. Okay. So that's our download. Then what we're going to do is McKay's already probed for that, so he's not eligible. Ensign Davis is not eligible. Karen Lowe's is not eligible, and then neither is Curzon Odo. Although Curzon and Loxana are now a romantic couple, so Julie and Bashir. Karen and Julian are going to get regaled of stories of the Mirror Quadrant, so I'm going to stop and draw 2. There we go. There's another opposite the present person. We also now have a smoke bomb. And now we actually have our 3 couples here. So we're going to draw 3 off of the cafe. We'll take 1. There's a cadet. We'll take 2. There's our Q's tent that we want. And then we have downloaded a person this turn. So we can't download into play through group therapy, so we will just take the last draw. Ah, Mr. Scott. All right. Yeah. And then what we're going to do is... Now, I believe the timing on this works. So we are not going to probe here because we've literally exhausted everyone and played to draw cards. I think the timing on it works is that we can probe for Visit Cochrane Memorial to draw 1 card, and then as an interrupt action between the probing and the card draw, we could play a Q's tent. I think that works, but it's immaterial right now because we've literally... Oh, we have Catherine Janeway. Oh, we have Catherine Janeway. That's right. So I think this works. You know, at the very least, yeah, I think it works. I'm pretty sure it works because probing is the thing you do before you end the turn, but you have the ability to play interrupts between draws, And so I think there's a window to play an interrupt speed card between the probe and your draw. Doorways are interrupts on your own turn. And so we're going to play it as if that's real. If that's not right, someone leave a comment. It'd be good to know. So we'll do that. We're going to probe. Oh my gosh. Wow. This is just super, super unlucky. Yeah, we're gonna get rid of Anastasia, I think. I'm penalty boxing them for being so stupid about this. So that goes back to the top of the deck, and we are gonna just Q's tent, and that'll get us Dixon Hill out of the Q's tent. And then we end our turn. Opponent on his turn, you know, they play some stuff or whatever. And then we go to our third turn. We play Bob Bennett for free as an admiral. We play Wesley Crusher for free as a cadet. Bob is our AU personnel for the turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to play Carlos as our card play. Well, hold on a second here. If we play Mr. Scott, we get an engineer, but he's AU, so we can't do him and Bennett. Neither one of these two is... Yeah, actually what we're going to do, no, this is what we're going to do. We are going to play Lauren as our card play. And then what we're going to do is... Oh, Bob Bennett's our engineer. What am I talking about? Yeah, but let's maximize things here. This is what we need to maximize, I think. Bob Bennett, yeah. So card play is Lauren. Then what we're going to do is we're going to stop. This, of course, this is occurring in the headquarters. This is occurring up on the Enterprise E. Catherine can no longer be a part of this for the memorial, but Bob can. We want Lauren's special download on the opponent's turn, so we need to make sure she is with dudes, not chicks. So there's 3 dudes here, and Karen Lowe's. She would make still more dudes than chicks. So this kind of becomes a problem. If she's up on the ship, it's even, more chicks than dudes. But if we put her here, yeah, we'll put her here. And we're going to put Catherine Janeway up on the ship just because. Then what we're going to do is we're going to stop to draw, and we're going to convert that with group therapy. We're going to go get Patrick out of the deck. And then Patrick creates a situation where we got more dudes than chicks. We'll just go ahead and do Patrick's surprise party right now so that we get an extra draw at the end of the turn. Opponent would draw 2 cards. Don't care. And then we would do a second draw, and we would just take that draw. That's good. And then we have essentially 3 draws up here. And I think we would take... Yeah, we'll take them. Oh, glad we did at least 2. So now we've got options for ambassadors and admirals. We're not finding our cadets, which is unfortunate. And then end of turn, Bob Bennett's going to probe. So we probe. There we go. There's Dorian Collins drawing us a card and being a cadet. And then, yeah, let's do this. Let's just take the other 2 draws. Well, we're at 12 cards in hand. If an opponent had the possibility for Scorched Hand, I think what I would do is I would just go ahead and play the Q's Tent. And we will go into the Q's Tent and we will get our other big card. Oh, the other thing we needed to do this turn is we needed to actually do the taking charge. So let's just assume that I did that, and just to be fair, we'll pull the established trade route out. We would just fly to, we could literally just fly to battle sector 001, fly back. It's not an issue. And we'll go ahead and pull the Cetacean Institute out, because that literally constitutes the remaining. I mean, we can always pull a Mazaka or the Obelisk out as well, but for now we're just going to do that. We'll just pull that out. Cetacean Institute provides us with our ability to 2-mission win, because we can do this mission for 50, we can do this mission for 40, and we'd still have 5 bonus points with George and Gracie coming back from the past. So that's a thing. If we need to like race an opponent who's not interfering with us. So this is kind of a good thing to do versus like TNG board where you're kind of in a race. Okay, so that was our 3rd turn. We haven't put anything at risk here because our opponent really hasn't put anything at risk. And this was just kind of a setup time for us. Next turn, we're going to have to actually get serious about doing stuff, and we're not really going to be drawing a bunch of cards because we're kind of reaching our hand size limit for the most part. But we go to the opponent's turn, and so this is where the fish bowling kind of takes over, where we're not just fish bowling, but now we're scenarioing. TNG board decks, they'll do 3 turns of like putting people into play, and then what they usually do is they'll go to like, if one of these 2 missions, one of their 2 like middle missions is a planet mission, then they will go ahead and try to go to like whichever one of them is a planet. TNG Borg like to do planet first because attempting space with a bunch of people early gets a bit dangerous for them, because you know, if they don't have ability to deal with like emergent life form, that's a problem. They did get Gowron of Borg. They got Q of Borg into play, so they would potentially consider doing space first, because they would not have to worry about Spectarians. They would not have to worry about emergent life form. They would see that they have only 2 dilemmas that they got to deal with here at Investigate Shattered Space. So I think that a Borg opponent might just go ahead and say, you know what, I'm going to do that. So they would download the one that gives them all the skills that they need by scouting a computer skills space mission. So they would go there and kind of begin scouting. We would hit them with an Armus energy field. And so Armus energy field would stop 1, but it gets doubled. Doubles effects of all Armus dilemmas, so it would stop 2, and then what we would do is we would be able to double dumbass on them after they stop 2. So let's just go ahead, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll literally just do it like that, where it's 1 through 8 going down. Random 8. Oops. I have no idea what's going on here. We go random 8. Oh my goodness. What did we get? This is very annoying. Okay. Whoops, rolled 9. Okay, so, whoops. So let's just take, so what is it? An average of, all right, now let's just do it this way. We'll just roll 2 6-sided dice. So we got an 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it would stop him. 11 again stops him. And then we double dumbass, and we are just down to 6 people. So roll and roll. So we go 1 and 4, so then we stop this one and this one. So those all stopped from the double dumbass. That goes to our discard pile. And now they would need to have leadership, computer skill, 2 Astro and Stellar. They definitely don't have that. They don't have Astro to begin with. We wouldn't necessarily know whether or not they had Astro or not if we were being super judicious about knowing exactly what our Borg opponent had in play. So they'll just stop to the Armus energy field, flip it. That buys us a turn. So then we go to our 4th turn. And now we need to be thinking about whether or not we need to be getting Dixon Hill and Carlos into play. But what we will do is we'll play Dorian Collins for free. We will have Admiral Riker be our AU personnel for free to Office of the President. And then we can card play what we can do is we can card play Carlos. Yeah, we're just gonna hold on to the Cetacean Institute for like winning the. That'd be a hold on to it for winning the game. We just need to get people into play. So we have enough people in play to do something at this point. So we did get our secure homeworld in play. We have all these people in play, and so I think what we do is we'd figure out who we want to protect, and I think we want to protect Mr. and Mrs. Troy, but they are actually our only remaining like Visit Cochrane Memorial target right now, I think. She did it, and he did it, and McKay did it, and we want to stop him for other stuff anyway. We also have Patrick. I guess Patrick's available as well. But we kind of want to protect. Oh, that was the other thing we were going to do. We were going to do Life Simple Pleasures on the opponent's turn. My bad. So on the opponent's turn, what we wanted to do was Life Simple Pleasures. So we'll say that that hit the table and got discarded before the double dumbass. No, we would do it the other way. We would have it be that way. And what we would want to do is get a female. So here's the thing: we already like just flat up discarded Anastasia because she just wasn't happening. She is typically the target that we'd want for that, but we also have the option of grabbing Savick. Savick can grab us our referee card, so we can get Stratagema to protect ourselves, or we can get, if we want to shuffle up our hand and rebuy a new hand, we would do that and get the Obelisk. But we don't want to do that because the cards in our hand we do like. And I guess another option is we can grab Jadzia. She's a skill boss. She does like Life Simple Pleasures. We don't need to grab like Law, because Law can be grabbed with the Group Therapy, which is another strong play with that card. That like if we bounce up against a skill wall and we have like 1 copy of it or 2 copies of it, then Law always provides us with a third. So kind of like the idea of grabbing Savick, or Jadzia, I mean. So let's do that. We'll grab Jadzia as a skill boss on the opponent's turn. All right. Okay, so this is everything we would have in play then on our turn. We need to protect Carlos. We need to protect Mr. and Mrs. Troy. The Jack Pack is kind of a solve things. Admiral Riker's on board a Fed facility, so we can thin the deck even more. We can do Walls Have Ear, or sorry, the Wall of Ships to grab the Enterprise D. We can't grab the A. So we get the Enterprise D. We're not going to grab Wall of Ships because we can't play the Enterprise A on this turn, but we will get it on the opponent's turn. So at the very least, we thin the deck out by 1 and give ourselves another ship in case we need it. We would have the Valiant fly to Earth, and we can attempt Earth no problem. So really, this is kind of a how would you protect things? I mean, we can take a bunch of card draws here, but I think the Jack Pack is what we're going to protect to bust dilemmas if we need to. We protect the Jack Pack. We can protect them for now, and then basically like everybody else is kind of foddery. We don't even necessarily need to protect the Valiant staffing because we have a couple of them. And there's more in the deck. We don't really need to protect Riker. And then as far as like all of these people, we don't really need to protect any of them either. Because we're kind of at that point in the game where, I mean, we're going to protect enough ways to draw cards and stuff, so it's not really that much of an issue. So, but the Enterprise A, the Enterprise E and D are over Earth. We don't want to we don't want to run like everybody into, say, a Den of Neuroparasites, because that's one thing about the deck that just not able to really like protect against Denovan. So Denovan's a weak dilemma to the deck, or the deck is weak to a Denovan. Again, just self-scouting, know what it is that your deck is weak against. And we're playing original Q's tent, so all we really need to do is send 3. Just 3 in order to protect ourselves against villagers with torches. We are going to assume that a TNG Borg opponent would not be playing Tribunal of Q though, so we would have the option of being able to just like go with 1. But again, what's worst case scenario, and assume that we have to send 3. Riker's fully expendable. In a lot of ways, Riker is the most expendable person in the group. And then, of course, the cadets are also extremely expendable. And Admiral Janeway is also pretty expendable. So we would probably protect. We would probably protect Dorian Collins. And we could just send these 3. So everyone else would actually just be on. They would just be in the office of the president. Just because that's the safest place for them to be right now. Just in case we hit a god and they get blown up to a god, So, I mean, losing the Enterprise E to a god is also a bit of a problem. So I think the other thing we would do is we would probably just have the Enterprise E and Sergei and Helena protect some card draws, protect the ship itself. It could just fly to the space mission just to protect it. We also have the Valiant in orbit as well. It's perfectly fine. So, yeah. If necessary, we can always special download Wall of Ships just to get the Wall of Ships into play for a boost if it somehow gets blown up. But we'll just go with those 3 at Earth through the secure homeworld. We hit an Edo probe. Against a Borg opponent, this is a tough call because, they're not going to give us anything. We need to go fast because they're going to go fast. But it does mostly shut down our ability to 2-mission win if we lose the points. We would still get 5 extra. We get 5 back, but then we would definitely need to switch gears, and we would need to switch gears and definitely try to get our process ore going. But I don't know that process ore would save us, so we may just be looking at a 3-mission win. The other option is that if we can get Battle of Sector 001 solved, that would clear this out. We would get 50 points, so if there's a dead end behind it over here, then we would actually be busting up 2 dilemmas here. And so I think I like that plan. And so we would just abandon, let them be stopped to the Borg opponent's mission debriefing. We'll be okay with that. And then since the Enterprise D hasn't gone anywhere, let's find the next expendable people who can staff the ship. So Curzon Odo can staff it, Bob Bennett can staff it, Jadzia staffs it. We still need to protect Carlos. Feel like we still need to protect. We don't really need to protect Dorian Collins. I don't think we need to protect Loxana Troy. Loxana Troy is a major, like, she busts. She's really important in this deck for her ability to just straight up bust a V'ger. So we will take them. And then, yeah, let's just go ahead and... We have 2 command stars. We don't even have to do the Defiant. We could take the Valiant. But we would lose a reporting engine if we did that. So let's just take the Enterprise D with this group. And we'll attempt Battle Sector 001. Okay, we have Plasma Currents, so we need to have strength greater than 90. So I think we can pretty much assume that there's the Cytherians behind it. Of course, we know that, but it's kind of an obvious combo here that, like, oh, at the space mission that requires 6 of this, they need to have a whole bunch of that. So, so this group isn't going to have it because there's just the X of them here. But now we know that we need to come up with like a bunch of strength. So strength greater than 50 plus 10. X equals number of other missions in the region. So it's greater than 80, sorry. Be greater than 80 that we need. So Plasma Currents is a tough dilemma against this deck. It's not devastating. It just means you have to really commit. And so you have to kind of assume that there's probably just a Cytherians behind it. So we have to come up with a way to get over 80 strength on people that we don't mind losing. A great way to do that in this scenario, because it's a to get past, and the mission debriefing would stop this group. So we don't have access to this group right now. Another way that we can kind of beat that is if, like, you know, we can pseudo beat it. Enterprise E moves pretty fast. Yeah. We do have to worry, though, about the cube with Galron on board it. So we have to kind of consider that as well. That, like, maybe we have to try to time it pretty good. But they're running the J25 cube, so it would just be a damage, and then we could try to run away fast. So I guess I'm not really too worried about. I guess I really wouldn't be too worried about Galron aboard blowing us up. Because we would have 12 range once we get in there. So it seems like it's a problem for the next turn. Because we can draw some cards, would have access to these people again, and then the people that would go on the Enterprise E. Yeah, the people that would go on the Enterprise E 717. We could protect Carlos by doing that, having him be together. So that's 29. Jeez, weak. Plus 6 is 35. 41, that gets us halfway there. So we just need 40. And then this is a problem because, like, the rest of these people are not very strong either. So we need to find stronger people. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at. So, anyway, what we can do, though, is we can do a double stop there to draw. And then we would have Patrick. Patrick would go to the Cocken Memorial. And then we would have this group stop for draws as well. So we stopped there for those 2. We'll stop here for 2 more. And then we'll have Patrick probe, and he draws that card, and then we draw 2 more, and we would just pass the turn. This is a 6 strength. There's a 6 strength, 7 strength. There's a 6 strength. Yeah. All right. Opponent's turn. What we would do is we would then special download Wall of Ships to get the Enterprise A. So there's the Enterprise A, Wall of Ships to the discard. And then that's our AU card for that turn. That's fine. And then we assume that our opponent's going to scout again. They're not even going to let us do it. They're going to just adapt negative structure that. So we would just assume that that goes away. And then we see if we can randomly catch him with a naked V'ger. And we would not. Because they would have diplomacy. They actually would have the diplomacy, anthro, and computer skill. So that was unfortunate. See if we could just randomly catch them without doing a distribution node or without having one of the counterparts in play. We're not lucky. So they would complete scouting there. They would get all those skills, and then they would immediately fly to here because they want to keep moving towards the missions they can do, while also, you know, that's what TNG Borg deck's going to do. They're going to basically move themselves, kind of like they would pounce one of the first ones over here, then they move themselves to more of the center, because then that way they have access to the most number of missions for once they beat the second one. Then they need to have access to either another planet, which they do here, another planet, which they do here, or if they wanted to do another space, they could do the space here. Since they beat the space already, they would probably just be like, I just want to do 2 planets. So they're going to do this planet, and then they can just choose the other planet. Right? So let's just say that they go to here, they go to Covert Installation, and again, so they got one more turn, so they probably played, they probably free played here, drew a card, free played here, drew a card, they probably drew some other cards somehow, and they probably got one more free play. So we're just going to say that those 3 people were their next 3 people that they got. Not a big concern. So they kind of have access to all these people. Which means that they're going to have plenty of opportunities to attempt to multi-scout this mission. They kind of want to protect Galron. Q of Borg they got to protect in case they decide to do space, or in case there is randomly a buried alive into something. Typically what you see a TNG Borg deck do, they go to planet, and they'll just send down 3 guys to scout. So they have multiple of her, so she seems like a good choice to go down. You typically see them do that. They're going to send a blue drone for sure. They have multiple of this guy, so they're going to send that guy down. We're going to assume that they got a distribution node into play as well somehow, because they do have the guy in play for it. So we'll assume that they're skill sharing as well. That's an important thing to keep in mind as well. Again, since we're fishbowling, we're testing here. We're kind of, as much as we can, we assume the best for the opponent in situations where it's questionable. And we also definitely assume that they have lower decks in play because they have the lower decks guy as well. Yeah, the lower decks chick. Yeah, they had 2 copies of her in play, so we assume that they've got that going on as well. So, yeah, so let's just, because the thing is they want to keep track of their drones as well, like the colored drones that they have in play. So there's a blue, there's another blue, there's a green, there's a red. Here's a couple of greens, but they need greens for staffing their ship the most. But they'd be willing to send one down. So let's just say though that like they assume that they're going to get stopped and they want the card draw. So let's just assume that they actually do want to send like Galron and 6 of 14, and then the red drone and then the blue drone. So they have 2 blue drones for skill sharing, or sorry, 2 blue personnel for skill sharing. They're gonna, if they get stopped, they'll have Galron draw them a card with him. And then of course they have like they said, the backup blue guy in case somehow one of them dies or something like that. So they would then beam down and scout. M1 3 creature kills now end of every player's turn. One of the personal players here cure 2 exobiology. So in this scenario, yeah, Galron was going to die no matter wherever he was at, because he's the best personnel in play, but there's another reason why we want to do it, and so we'll just kill Galron. So Galron will go away. And that goes on the mission, and then this is where I kind of show that I'm a little surprised that this card did not show up at Worlds this year on day 1, given the fact that TNG Borg was just known that it was going to show up. Okay, the people that were there who had signed up, so you just knew this was coming. So like, dial up goes on there. All special download and away team are stopped. There's actually none, but we don't care. The important thing with this one is Places Dilemma on this mission. You may not download cards. Nullify with 3 computer skill and anthropology. Actually, yeah. So they're gonna get by this. Unfortunately, this whole combo, they're gonna be able to like. What they're gonna do is they're gonna have 3 computer skill and anthropology, because there's the anthropology that they would be skill sharing. If they'd only sent down 1 blue drone, this whole combo would have worked. But because they did not, and they can still skill share with the 1 blue drone, they would be able to cure that immediately if they had double exo. I don't even know if they have exo in play. So they can't cure it. Yeah, they cannot cure it. So if they had not sent down Galron, if they had sent down like a second, just a regular like second blue drone, it would have been a lot easier to deal with this. But 3 computer skill and anthropology, because they're skill sharing. Oh wait, it's only skill sharing first skill, if I remember correctly. Let's just double check it here. So. Let's just go to the deck. It's in here somewhere. So yeah, let's assume that they had that in play. So they have a distribution. Yeah, TNG Borg here share first listed skills at highest level. I want to say sure you may discard your drone or make your drones gain skill any choice. Okay. So we assume that they've been skill sharing, so it's only the first listed skill. So they're sharing the anthropology, but not the computer skill. Not computer skill, not computer skill, not computer skill, not computer skill. And again, it's the same guy. So they're not actually sharing 3 computer skill, but they're sharing the anthropology. So this would not be nullified. So then they would go into God, would not be able to download cards. They don't have the ability to beat God because they have 1 guy with the integrity. Their ship would blow up, and with dial-up, they would not be able to download another ship because they're not able to download cards. And this is a way you can try to beat TNG Borg. This little combo right here, they have to see it coming. They have to be sharing skills with a vinculum, not a distribution node, or they have to play the distribution node and discard a drone there to, like, say, gain the computer skill across the board, and still send down 2 blue drones, or a blue drone, and have 2 blue drones and have lower decks in play, which is not hard for them. we just assume lower decks is like always going to be in play for a TNG Borg deck. So, you know, this is a combo that I think that people could have caught TNG Borg with at Worlds if they would have been willing to like do it. I mean, you have to be playing with the ability to unlock an AU dilemma, but I mean, temporal conduits are very popular. There's so many decks that are seeding AU doors and stuff in order to be playing, you know, original series and movie era and stuff like that. So I think this is a combo that I think if people want to try policing the TNG Borg meta, this is a combo that they should definitely consider playing. The other way to do it, even if you don't do it with this way in particular, see if I can remember how to spell it. There it is. So this is the other way to just flat out to potentially beat it, isn't maybe instead of the M113 creature is Tedious Soiree. Name a classification or sub-command icon. All but one personnel with that classification or icon are stopped, and so you can basically make it so they're down to just one blue drone no matter what. They can send 3 blue drones, and it doesn't matter. It's another way that you could just, you know, put together an all-planet combo just to completely wreck TNG Borg if they don't see it coming. And then if they only send 1 blue drone down, well, then you can, you know, you can just like call something else or whatever, and you know, whatever icon, whatever sub-command icon they sent the most of. But typically, like I said, what you see a TNG Borg deck do is they typically just, they come to a planet and then they send like 3 people down to see what's there. If you can catch them, if you can pick the right mission at the right time, this can just end the TNG Borg deck's day, because Dial-Up says that they can't download another cube to replace the one that just got blown up by God. So this is definitely an anti-TNG Borg combo. So if you've been watching the video all the way to this point, there you go. Big time tip for you. If you were not aware of this combo, you are now. So in this scenario, this is how we were able to plan for and beat a TNG Borg deck by basically choosing to play with Dial-Up and God both in our 16 dilemmas. Dial-Up is still actually somewhat relevant against non-Borg decks because if, say, like we playing against a non-Borg opponent, this dilemma doesn't pair with God, it's pairing with something else. And what we can do is we can set up that other dilemma just by putting Dial-Up in front of it. And then once we maybe get like 1 or 2 stops with the special download, then we hit them with 1 or 2 copies of our double dumbass, and we can actually turn this into like a full stop. So, you know, as long as they have like, say, like 1 or 2 special download icons in a group, this can be a hard wall, you know, and or it could also just be a setup for something behind it. So, you know, it's still a viable dilemma, like with double dumbass on you in the deck. So again, this is kind of showcasing again that I think the double dumbass is actually a pretty strong card, because there are some dilemmas that I think can come out of the binder and start showing up in the meta to start policing some of the things that they don't normally do, because they're normally not very good enough to see play otherwise. So here we go. So again, if you've stayed with me for this entire video up to this point, here's kind of the hidden gem of this video. Is the ability to play with like M113 into Dial-Up into God in order to like beat a TNG Borg deck, or the Tedious Soiree into Dial-Up into God. Because that's the other thing, is that like Tedious Soiree might even be definitively better. Again, this is where we do version 1 of a deck and we see how it is, and then we kind of test it out against scenarios, and we see like, oh, maybe this other thing would actually have been better. If we had gone with Tedious Soiree, we could have just guaranteed they couldn't nullify the Dial-Up, and guarantee that they couldn't pass God. I think that's the change that I will make then, is I think I'm going to leave the M113 creature in the deck because it's good otherwise. But I was a little on the fence about playing with Jolie Chu, and that's actually kind of where the swap is that Dial-Up and Jolie Chu. Dial-Up kind of goes, it gets buried behind Male's Love Interest entertaining display. And so then we can have the Jolly Chew. The Jolly Chew is normally over here, and the dial-up's over there. And then we could actually have Tedious Soiree lead up into the Jolly Chew, and have the Jolly Chew kind of set us up for God otherwise. So I think that's maybe a thing that I might just do then, because I just don't know that the Jolly Chew is good enough otherwise, because it doesn't necessarily play well. But but the M113 pairs off of the Jolly Chew is typically how we do it. Because the M113 sets up the Jolly Chew by killing the transporter skill on board the ship, if it happens to randomly have a staff ship with transporter skill in orbit. But yet at the same time, it's not that big of a deal. I do like M113 as a dilemma, but I really do think the Tedious Soiree, if we are pairing it with Double Dumbass, like M113 doesn't play nice with our Double Dumbass strategy. So maybe I think we can leave the Jolly Chew in the deck, and we can just straight up do a swap here. And maybe just leave this as a combo, and then leave this as a combo. So we've actually just created the situation where now our combos are still basically the same, whether we're playing against Borg or non-Borg. Which that's kind of the holy grail of your dilemma setup, is if it's actually like a setup that you're perfectly happy with, on Borg and non-Borg. That's the mega diamond in the rough. You just went through the cave of mystery and found the magic carpet. To carry you to victory, if you can do that. So I'm thinking that this might be a thing, because man, I mean, Tedious Soiree, I think Tedious Soiree, Tedious Soiree, I think can lead into God, like almost on its own, and then we can just bury the dial-up back here where we don't care, and then even when they after they pass God, or we can just lead in with Jolly Chew, set a qualifier so we have a ship to blow up guarantees. Yeah, there we go. We can bury the dial-up against all non-Borg opponents behind this combo, because this combo will typically lock everyone out anyway. Against non-Borg opponents, it'll typically lock most people out. And then, of course, we have the smoke bomb. So then this is where smoke bomb comes in, is that even if they have the ability to stone knives and bear skins here to shut down the umbrella that we put up with the Mila combo, then when they beam down, we smoke bomb them, and then they have to like beam down again, and we might smoke bomb them again, and so forth. And then in order to get past it, then they have to like give up their card play portion. They just would straight up give it up and just have their first action of the turn be I attempt the mission, while going into a dilemma that they don't know what it is. So we can kind of bury the dial up behind here, because what we can do is just plan on having this combo probably be like one that at the mission that we think is they're least likely to attempt. Because over at the other planet, at our third planet, basically, we kind of have we have like an incidental. Oh, sorry, that's the other thing. We're running with sleeper traps, so that messes with things. But I'm rambling at this point, figuring out how to solve problems going forward. But for the purposes of this video, you've now seen how we can beat a TNG Borg deck with just a simple combo at what you think is going to be their most likely to attempt first planet. And then, of course, you can set up like Cytherians underneath. And we have Cytherians. We don't have Cytherians in this, but most people would. So you would probably, if you're playing your dilemma pile where you have like 18 dilemmas, you'd have the ability to stick your Cytherians underneath Investigate Shattered Space, hopefully catch them without Q. So that's another way that you can like really buy time against a board where like you've got 2 or 3 of their best missions just totally on lockdown to start the game, and that can really buy you some time against them. But we'll table that now. So the opponent's out of the game. Now we have to try to beat the clock, but now we're no longer worried about like the opponent. They can't blow us up because their ship and people are gone and they're not doing anything. So now we can send everybody to plasma currents, try to beat the last dilemmas, try to beat the dilemmas, win the game. And so that's what we would do on our turn. We're no longer concerned about redrawing double dumbasses and stuff. So the Dixon Hill combo is not really that big of a deal. But Dixon Hill is our way to solve Battle of Sector 001. That we just have Dixon Hill plus 2 to 3 ships solve the mission for 50 points. So there's another combo. So there is another little combo for everyone out there. If you haven't realized it, Dixon Hill can get you Battle of Sector 001 now for buku points, and he's even just straight up playable in an Enterprise E deck. So if you just wanted to have him as a backup and then have Dixon Hill available to you to solve some other mission for basically nothing, that's another way to go about it. So say if you wanted to do Battle of Sector 001 in a deck where you're also playing with like a 50 plus point planet mission, you can totally do that. Dixon Hill coming back into the game is awesome. Because it's just ignore non-attribute requirements, and 6 Enterprise E personnel is a non-attribute requirement. So there you go, boom shakalaka. You just straight up solve it with, probably 2 ships there for. Because I think the Valiant with the cadets. I mean, it's Enterprise E plus the Valiant with the cadets is enough to probably get you over the 24 weapons. But with the Enterprise A, the USS Enterprise, you're probably going to be able to just get through it. So not that big of a deal. But in order for us to get through all this, we'd have to come up with all of that. So yeah, it would just take a little bit of time. But Fleet Admiral Morrow for free, and our cadet for free, and then play Jack with his 9 strength as our card play, and then we would beat that. We would go into the Cytherians on board the Enterprise E, since it has the cadet ship actually probably has the most range at this point. So we would probably do this on the cadet ship, if anything. Actually, now that I think about it, because we would have 11. Because we would have to send in the cadets to get through this. So, yeah. We have 3 cadets available to us. We have another one who can report directly to the ship later to increase it even further. So that's what we probably do, is we probably just send the cadets and whoever else we needed on their merry way. And they would have, 11 range, so we'd go 3, 4, 5, 10, get a boost of 2, and be able to get all the way to here on that turn, and then the very next turn play him, go to 12, 13, 14 with the opponent's neutral zone, so 3, 6, 11, 14 would get us there. That would get us exactly to there. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that we'd be able to do that. And the remaining people would just face they would just face that. Someone would die. We wouldn't care. We'd know how to beat it. And then we would take 2 turns to get back. We'd even probably set up, so on the 1 turn, we'd get the Valiant to here. We'd actually send the Enterprise to, say here. Wait. 5, 7, 10, 12. Yeah, we'd still get back. We wouldn't have to do that. We would just we'd get the Valiant all the way back here in order to just flat out beat this and solve it. And then we would take everybody to Earth. That would be gone. They'd hit us with that. Into their own Joey Chu. It would just kill some people, not consequential. Dead End is beaten. And then we'd be able to play. We would be able to do that. We would just be able to play Earth, get the whales, go back in time, bring them back, win the game. It would be very doable to accomplish all of that before the clock ran out. So there you go. Our fishbowl of this deck. In case you want to see how the deck currently is right now, I'll scroll down. You can then write things down. You can pause the video in order to write stuff down if you are actually interested in the deck. You've pretty much seen most of it at this point. And then our 6 missions you've seen all 14 of the seed cards. This is what's in our Q's tent, because just to go over that, we are playing with, like I said, Obelisk of Mazaka and Stratagema off of Lieutenant Savick, George and Gracie off of the Cetacean Institute, Mazaka Transformations off the Obelisk. Mila comes in on the Entertaining Display. She grabs the umbrella, and then the opponent has to continue, and they just die. Like, they can't beam away, so they just die. And then Mila's got the planet on lockdown, so unless they hit us with... So then your opponent has to go Stone Knives and Bearskins, or Disruptor Overload, or have a landed ship. No matter what they do, they're going to accomplish that. They're going to beam down. You hit them with Smoke Bomb to stop them, and you just delay. And it's just, you're going to try to delay them for a turn or two before they solve the mission, because that's all it's about. You can't lock them out, really. Either you lock them out with the umbrella, or you're not going to be able to permanently lock them out, and that's fine. It's not about doing that. And then of course, at planet the other planet we have Sleeper Trap. Sleeper Trap gets us our Cardassians. They battle. So the first group that goes down gets battled. If it's a small group, you're going to kill 1 or 2 of them possibly. And then they send out another group, and then that next group hits, like, say, it's in a median or something like that. You stop them, or you kill somebody, and you hopefully stop them. And then once again, the smoke bombs start taking over, where you just, like, you battle them with your guys, and then if they try to either, like, battle you back, you can smoke bomb them, or they go to their turn, and in order to even attempt the mission, they have to give up their card draw, their card plays. So they're not moving forward, or they're giving up all their card plays in order to move forward on the mission. If they don't realize that that's something that they have to do, you smoke bomb them, and all those people stop. It's also entirely possible that if you've killed people and if you know that they just don't have the mission requirements, they don't have the requirements to beat a minion, because, well, the minion kills somebody and they stopped, that's fine. They're going to have to take actions, so you're going to get, for sure, a bonus turn when they beam the people down to try to beat a minion. Well, you beam down, there's an action window, you smoke bomb them, they stop, now they can't attempt the mission, and then you're free to then try to battle them again, to try to kill somebody again, if you want to. Otherwise, then the opponent, like I said, the turn after that, they would have to know that they have to give up their card plays in order just to have their first action to be, I attempt this mission. Otherwise, they're going to get smoke bombed again, probably. So, and then, let's see here. These are the dilemmas as we had them. But like I said, I think that the M113 is going to probably come out. We're going to probably put Tedious Soiree in its place, because that just seems to work better, because it sets you up versus Borg into the dial-up into God, and even against a non-Borg opponent, you can just call whatever classification that you know that they have the most of, or that you think they have the most of going in. Not a guarantee, but that's the thing, is like there are sometimes just no guarantees. If your opponent's playing tight to the vest and they're not really showing you who they're going down with and stuff like that, then you're just kind of guessing. But for the most part, as long as you've been kind of keeping a loose eye on, like, well, they have the most of, like, officers, they have, like, a ton of, like, science people, you can just name something. As long as you get one stop, you can pair it with Double Dumbass, turn it into multiple stops, blow up their ship. Right? So, but that's pretty much the deck. And then, of course, again, you saw everything there. So that's kind of the deck. That's the video. Like I said, going forward, I'm going to want to try to do a video like every Friday, every other Friday, something like that. Sometimes it's going to be this, where I build a whole new deck and we go over it. Sometimes it'll be a long video like this where I build the deck and we do a fishbowl game, because maybe I feel like there's some kind of combo out there that I think people should know about, and it's best showcased in a sort of like like simulated live fire scenario where you see that like how an opponent would talk, they would strategize themselves right into falling into it. Um, and then maybe some other videos I'll do something closer to what Kaiser does, where I just kind of showcase like here's a combo, like here's a fun dilemma combo, or here's a cool couple of cards that work together interestingly. So for the purposes of this video, you've now kind of seen how group therapy can be pretty good. Kaiser and I have both shown how double dumbass can be pretty good. Naturally, we have the temptations, just as Kaiser did, because temptations of the flesh with double dumbass it's the bomb. It's the bomb. If your opponent's not playing board, they're gonna have a dang near impossible time getting through this, because as long as you have the ability to play enough double dumbasses to stop everyone, they can't get through. And you're gonna have, by turn 4, you're gonna have 5 objectives in play. Your opponent might be giving you 1. You might have it on turn 3 even. So it's just, and then that's where the Carlos Dixon Hill combo comes in, so that if you get 2 or 3 double dumbasses in your hand, they're gonna have to throw 16 people to beat temptations. Well, if they throw 16 people, then that's when you hit them with the V'ger behind it. So yeah, if that's what you're going after. And of course, this is the normal combo. It gets kind of rearranged against TNG board, but this would be the normal combo for the deck. It would be Temptations into V'ger into Armus. You can reverse that if you think that an opponent might be anticipating what you're doing, or if you think the opponent's going to attempt that space mission first, and you want to punish them by blowing up their ship first and then still locking them out later. So it's just kind of a reversible combo, which, I mean, how cool is that? You don't usually see that in this game. A combo that you can play backwards or forwards, and it's equally good. So that's something pretty cool to think about as well. Yeah. So give me your thoughts, comments, criticisms, constructive input on how you think the deck might be better. Maybe post what you think you would do with it. If you're working on your own double dumbass deck. If you're working on your own double dumbass deck, tell me what it is what route you're going down. But it sure seems like this right here is the way to play it. I really feel like this is the combo right here, as far as playing a double dumbass deck. Whether you're playing with Smoke Bomb or not, if you're playing with double dumbass, this seems to be the way to go. So you always have access to it if you want. Yeah. So anyway, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate you. If you got this far in the video, you are an awesome person, and I love you. But stay tuned for more videos going forward, and thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.